There are very few things that mankind has been doing for longer than sitting around the fire, telling stories, making food, and staring into the flames. And so if humans have had time to perfect anything, it should be the fire pit. BioLite, however, seem to believe that they have built a better version, the Firepit Plus, and their sales pitch goes a bit like this. It is portable, it is smokeless, it doubles as a sophisticated barbecue, and it comes with a remote. How can a fire have a remote, you ask? Well, along the bottom and the top sides, there are holes through which air is blown by a battery-powered ventilator mounted to the side. And if you know anything about fire, you know that airflow, oxygen, is indeed essential to get and keep a good fire going. The ventilator has 4 different settings that can be controlled through these buttons and via Bluetooth through this app that well, honestly, I only really installed it for the video because I'm a buttons kind of guy, but I suppose it's a cool concept. And the extra airflow certainly help. I mostly use it in 2 situations, that is when starting the fire makes it easy to get things going, and when we're finished for the night and I don't want to leave a burning fire outside. The fire pit is pretty contained, maybe there's not a huge fire hazard, but even a very small chance of fire spreading is something that you want to be smart about. So what I do is for the last couple of minutes, I put the fan on maximum, and then the fire gets pretty intense and burns through the rest of the wood real fast. I wouldn't want to sit next to it for an extended period of time because the fan's a bit loud on the higher settings, but as a safety feature, I do quite like it. Now, let's go over that sales pitch again. Is it portable? Yes, very much so. The legs fold in neatly, and BioLite makes an excellent bag that doesn't come in a box, unfortunately. I'm sure you can find smaller tabletop barbecues, but as an all-in-one fire pit and barbecue, this is pretty much the ideal size, because if it were smaller, it would strictly be a 1 or 2 person fire pit, and if it were any bigger, it wouldn't easily fit in a car or a camper. Is it smokeless? Well, I honestly would not call it smokeless, but it definitely does smoke less. Here are 2 fire pits with the same amount of firewood coming from the same batch, same sizes, with the fans of the Firepit Plus on a medium setting. My takeaways are that it has less smoke than a regular fire pit, and the smoke is less likely to blow in your face if you're sitting next to it. Perhaps the mechanism to prevent smoke works better on the highest settings, but as I said, that one really is quite loud for a quiet evening around the fire. Does it double as a barbecue? Yes, definitely. It's kind of a sit-down style grill because most barbecues assume that you're going to be standing up. If you hang the fuel rack on these hooks, like so, and load it with coals, you get a reasonably sized grill with the option to slide it to the side when it's had enough. I wouldn't want to cook on this for a larger group of people, but it's a great fit for a family, a couple of friends. One thing to keep in mind is that barbecues are usually closed on the side, while the fire pit has this see-through mesh built for staring into the flames, but it can be an issue in stronger winds. I've taken this on 2 camper van trips, one in Normandy and one in the Dutch Isle of Texel, and those are both very windy destinations that I would not recommend for anyone planning to cook on the Firepit Plus. It really works best in calmer situations. I think the ideal customer for a product like this is someone who both wants a fire pit and a barbecue in a portable package to go camping, tailgate parties, that kind of stuff. I love this for winter evenings when we don't have any longer hikes planned and we just want to hang out outdoors and not be constricted to our own backyard. You can pretty much take this anywhere, use it without leaving a trace, pretty great. And of course, it's also a good fit for people with a smaller backyard or porch, as well as people like myself who used to have one of these more traditional round fire pits and found that they can mess up and break your patio tiles because of the enormous heat that they generate. Let's list some of the advantages of the Firepit Plus, including some things that I hadn't expected but do quite like. The handles can be used even when you have a serious fire going, and I'm not gonna recommend that you carry around an open fire, obviously, but there are situations where they can be very useful. For example, if you forgot to put a fire mat underneath or you want to move it to a less windy spot. This is all but impossible with most other designs, and it has come in handy for me a couple of times. It's a good height when seated, especially when cooking, which makes it well suited for cooking together. With barbecuing, you often have one person doing all the grilling. This invites everyone around the fire to join in. The battery lasts quite a long time. We're talking tens of hours on the lowest fan setting, and that is a good thing because there are already so many things in modern life that you have to charge. I can live without ever having to hear,
"Honey, did you remember to charge the fire pit?"
The fire does not charge the battery, which may sound obvious, but BioLite has a smaller fire, the Camp Stove 2 Plus, that can generate electricity to, for example, charge your phone. It's a neat trick, but I doubt it generates enough energy to make a dent in a 20,000 milliamp hour battery like the one in the Firepit Plus. But the main advantage of the Firepit is definitely versatility as a fire pit and as a barbecue at home as well as on the road. It does have its limitations, of course. It does not generate an enormous amount of heat. If you have a big pile of wood and a lot of people in freezing temperatures, then a fire pit simply isn't going to cut it. It works best in smaller settings, let's say 1 to 4 people. It also requires more frequent refills than your typical fire pit. If you want it to be as smokeless as possible, you'll have to fill it no higher than these horizontal rods. So just a couple of logs, no piling them up too high. Barbecuing requires you to hang the basket higher, and that causes small coals to fall through the basket to the bottom of the fire pit where they won't be doing your burgers much good. And cleaning is a bit more work than a classic barbecue. Or rather, it's not necessarily more work, but you're going to want it to be cleaner exactly because you move it around, put it in the back, put it in your car, and you're not going to want to get ash and grease everywhere. And lastly, the battery charges via micro USB, while the rest of the world has already moved on towards USB-C. I think in 2024, that's a bit like putting a small sticker on your product saying obsolete. So I hope BioLite will fix this real soon. Let's go over some of the accessories because I haven't mentioned those. Tradition demands that you use a stick for poking fires, but there's something to be said for this fire poker, especially if you intend to use it both as a grill and as a fire pit, because the fire poker lets you adjust the height of the fuel rack, which can otherwise be pretty tricky to do, especially when the fire is already burning. The fire mat has two functions, protecting the surface underneath the fire pit and deflecting heat back so you get more warmth from the fire. It comes in handy when camping to protect the grass or for use on picnic tables and such, and I figure it also helps with fire safety. If you're serious about cooking with a fire pit, I would recommend two accessories in particular, the griddle and the grill lid. The griddle gives you a cast iron surface to cook on, further increasing the range of food you can prepare. You can definitely use other cast iron cookware if you have that lying around, but this one has the advantage of fitting perfectly and working in conjunction with the grill lid, because that gives you higher and more constant temperatures, which makes it easier to know what you're doing and decreases your cook times. It's especially handy if you're planning to cook in windy, rainy, or snowy conditions, and you can use it both with charcoal and firewood as long as you keep the flames reasonably low. There's no temperature gauge, which would definitely have been a nice addition, but there are some aftermarket options. BioLite also sells a matching set of grill tools. They're quite nice and they fit inside the fire pit, but honestly the same is probably true for most other grill tools, so it's by no means a must. So does the fire pit deliver on its promises? I'd say it mostly does, yeah. I haven't used it to cook on it as often as I had expected, and I've had some bad luck with being in windy spots when I did. There's no denying the potential, both as a smart fire pit and as a versatile outdoor cooking device. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.